You ever notice how no matter what you do, it never feels like enough? You could be busting your ass at work, bringing home the check, making sure everything is handled, but there's still that nagging emptiness sitting in your chest like a damn cinder block. Like something's really missing. Like no matter how much you achieve, no matter how much you prove yourself, it never actually fills that hole. And you know why? Because that hole, it was never dug by the job that you're in. It was not dug by your relationship or even your own mistakes. That hole got carved into you when you were just a kid. When that one person who was supposed to see you, supposed to validate you and tell you that you're enough, they never did. You see, growing up without validation from your father or even your mother is not just some little emotional hiccup. It's not something that you just get over because you're an adult now. That wound gets stitched into your identity, and it changes how you see yourself, how you show up in your relationships, how you handle stress, how you handle success, how you handle failure, everything. And you don't deal with it, it will keep ruining your life. From the shadows, making sure that no matter how much you grind, no matter how much you win, no matter how much you accomplish, you still feel like you're never enough. So what happens when a boy grows up without his father's validation? It's not just talking about outright neglect. I'm talking about that subtle but soul-crushing absence of approval. Maybe he was there physically, but he never really saw you. Maybe he was always criticizing, making you feel like you had to work for every scrap of attention. Maybe he was just impossible to please, like no matter what you did, it was never quite right. Or maybe he just wasn't there at all. And you learned real quick that if you wanted to feel worthy, you were going to have to earn it. And that's the start of this dangerous, vicious cycle. The cycle of overcompensating. The cycle of needing to prove something over and over and over again. And so now as a grown man, you're not just living life, you're chasing validation in everything you do. You work harder than everyone else. You put insane pressure on yourself. You don't just let yourself rest, because resting feels like failing. And even when you do succeed, you barely take a second to acknowledge it before moving on to the next thing. Because deep, deep down, you don't believe you deserve to slow down. Because there's always something more to prove. And let's talk about the anger that you have. You ever find yourself losing your shit over stupid little things because, like, someone cuts you off in traffic, or someone says the wrong thing, or your kid spills something, and then suddenly it's like, boom, rage. Kind of anger that scares you sometimes because it feels bigger than the moment. It feels like it's coming from somewhere deeper. Guess what, man? It is. That's the anger of a boy who never got what he needed and now trapped inside of a body of a man who has no idea how to let it out the right way. You see, when a kid doesn't get validation from his father, he doesn't just feel unseen, he feels unworthy. Like he's not good enough just as he is. And when you don't believe you're enough, every little failure, every little mistake, every little moment where you feel dismissed or ignored, it doesn't just feel like frustration, it feels like proof. Proof that you're still not enough. And that rage that's inside of you, that's the body's way of fighting back against the years and years of feeling small, feeling unimportant, feeling like no one ever truly gave a shit. And let's talk about the other side of this, because not every man who grows up without his father's validation turns into an overachieving workaholic or an anger-driven time bomb. Some men just shut down completely. They stop trying. They stop believing in themselves. They become passive, indifferent, numb. Because when you grow up never being told you're enough, never being encouraged, never being seen, you start to believe that there's no point in trying, that nothing you do will ever matter. So why bother? That's the guy who coasts through life, who lets other people walk all over him, who buries himself in distractions, in video games, in drinking, in porn, whatever helps numb him out, and forget that deep down, he doesn't think he's worthy of a damn thing. And if that's you, I need you to hear this right fucking now. That's not who you really are. That's conditioning. That's programming. That's a man who got broken down before he even had a chance to stand up. And the only reason you still feel stuck is because you've been carrying around someone else's bullshit as if it was your truth. It's not. So how the hell do you fix this? How do you break free from the lifelong cycle of seeking validation, chasing approval, feeling like you're never enough? You cannot heal what you refuse to feel, my man. And that means you have to go back. You have to acknowledge that this wound exists. You have to stop acting like it didn't affect you. Like it doesn't matter. Like you're just fine. And you're not fine. And that's okay. You have to let yourself feel the anger. You have to feel the sadness, the grief over what you never got. Because if you keep burying it, it will keep running your life. And a weak body cannot carry a strong mind. Think about that. You need to physically break out of the patterns that are keeping you stuck. That means movement. That means training. That means putting yourself through intentional suffering so you can stop being a prisoner to your old pain. A stronger body builds a stronger mind. And speaking of your mind is either your greatest weapon or your biggest enemy. And right now, if you're still living for validation, still chasing approval, still feeling like you have to prove yourself, you are not in control of your own mind. And that has to change. You need to start rewriting that damn story you've been telling yourself. Because the truth is, you were always enough. You just never had a father who told you. But you don't need his permission to believe it now. And lastly, guys, the world doesn't need you to be hiding. It needs you to reveal yourself. You don't need to keep pretending. You don't need to keep proving. You don't need to become something. You just need to be who you were meant to be before all that bullshit got in the way. So sit with yourself. What is deep inside of you, that authentic voice telling you? Listen, it's a hell of a lot simpler to just keep ignoring that voice. Keep pushing through all this nonsense, right? All the pain. Keep pretending like none of this affects you. But I also know that deep down, you're tired of living that way. Tired of chasing, tired of proving, tired of feeling like nothing's ever enough. If you're ready to break this cycle, I want to help you. Click that link that's in my description and schedule a free call with me. And we can talk about how we can actually start fixing this. Get some clarity, some direction, some guidance, because you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your kids, to your family. You owe it to the man you were always meant to be. That future version of yourself, you owe it to him. Remember, please like this video if it resonated with you. Hit that subscribe button, please, and leave a comment. Let me know if this hits home for you. Go out there and destroy your limitations, guys. Reclaim your strength and build your fucking legacy. Let's go.